Hello and welcome to the Sports Podcast presented by the Collings Thode Network. I'm your co-host Collings alongside.
Nolan Thode. We just like to address the brief hiatus. We haven't had a podcast come out over the last month, and it's as you can see, we're doing this virtually now, so uh, nothing to do with COVID or anything. I'm just on a work term for my school program, so I'm back at home. I'm working in Toronto. Curtis is still in Waterloo, so we had to adjust and give ourselves a little bit of a Christmas break, but now heading into the new year, I feel like Curtis and I don't want to speak on behalf of him, but I feel like we're more motivated than, ever before. And we're excited for a great year, and we're going to be, pushing content out. And yeah, we hope that, you guys enjoy that, what we do.
Yeah, my aim has been to make daily stuff because I have been more motivated than ever, and I'd like to say thank you for the support on BetPick so far. We might not be winning, but you guys loving it, so that's what really matters. And as the year goes on, we hope to see a little more results with that. But the content's gonna keep on coming out, so keep expecting it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Curtis and I think, we had the ideas of the podcast years ago, but I think Collings Thode Network is going to be much more than just the sports podcast. This is more just the medium where we're able to talk about everything. But
Which it was funny because the sports podcast was always the original idea, and the sports podcast was kind of the genesis of Calling Stone Network. And like,
mhm.
if you remember that the thumbnails were and like the profile picture for our channel were the image right down there. It wasn't like this CTN. It was it was the sports podcast before it was anything else.
No, exactly. And I think, you know, both you and I in the past have had, failed YouTube channels, as a lot of
A lot of
8
kids
to
have now.
15-year-old kids have. I'm sure if you did a deep dive on the internet, you might be able to find some of that stuff.
You could do a
But yeah,
shallow dive even.
no, we're really excited, and I guess pretty much for this episode, it's going to be pretty NFL focused. We got the playoffs coming up. We're going to give you just our predictions for what are going to happen, what to expect, teams we like, teams we, how'd they get into the playoffs.
It's a few
But
question marks in there.
on the note of football, I just did want to start with addressing the situation on the Monday night game in Week 17 between the Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, when Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest on the field, and the game was ultimately suspended. And now, as we know, the game's not even going to, conclude. At the end of the day, we're moving into the playoffs. Both teams only have 16 games on their record. But just talking about Damar, it's easier in hindsight a little bit to talk about it since he's made such a tremendous
Which,
recovery.
thank
Um,
goodness. Oh,
Today,
like,
I
oh
believe
my.
today he was released from the hospital.
Either today or yesterday,
Um,
very
a
recently,
few
but
days
thank
ago, he
goodness.
was moved from Cincinnati back to Buffalo. Only a few days in Buffalo, and now he's out. And the fact that, I obviously don't want to speak too soon. I don't know the long-term implications of this, but I I, I believe that we're going to see Damar Hamlin playing on a football field again in
Which
his
is
life,
that would
because
be incredible.
and it's not an injury or anything like that that would permit that from happening. It was a freak accident of sorts. Commotio cordis, I'm pretty sure, is like what they were potentially diagnosing it as, and it's where a specific spot in the heart's pulsation, if there's a like a direct impact or like a blunt force to the heart, which is what happened, then that can occur. um, it happened 2 weeks ago. It's still so relevant, both in the sports world and the world at large. I think, you know, it's it's moments like these where we really see just people coming together, that draws more attention towards sports, and can make it a mass media story. Obviously, it's insane what happened. I just getting into it, actually, my personal experience. I was really excited, because my friend Patrick and I, and his father, actually made the trip to Cincinnati, and we had tickets to the game, and I was actually there, and just I think I there won't be a sports game in the rest of my life that will top that game in terms of a I was there moment, because I don't think any other sports game, like,
There's no
obviously
sports
knock on
event.
wood,
Yeah.
but knock on wood, but this unprecedented, a
Yeah.
game being canceled and eventually not even happening. So
It's not a sports event you see very often. If it's a once in a lifetime kind of occurrence, it feels like.
yeah, no, absolutely. So just going through it, the tailgate outside the arena, the buzz around the game was electric. We had fans from, a lot of Cincinnati fans and a lot of Buffalo fans like myself who made the trip. I was wearing my Josh Allen jersey, the hat I'm wearing right now. I was, cheering loud and proud, and just the energy going into the game was absolutely insane. And credit to the the Bengals stadium for their intro. It was crazy. They had this thing where like you could download their app and it synced to your phone's flashlight.
Oh wow.
And so people held up their phones and like the app like had the flashlights like going on and off like through various like areas of the crowd. It was
That's
really
pretty
cool
cool.
and well done. And you can just tell how much this city loves their football team, especially when Joe Burrow ran out onto the field. It was just so loud and crazy. And the energy was, as I said, electric. Just everybody, there was playoff implications in the game, and everybody in that stadium was expecting to see the game of the year, and perhaps it was for the wrong reasons. It was 9 minutes into the game. Cincinnati scored on their opening drive. A guy 2 rows in front of me had Tyler Boyd first touchdown score, made $1,700
Wow.
off the bet. I'm curious to see how the bets that hit were handled. I'm sure he got his money, but
Yeah,
in the
because
game
would
that
that
wasn't
not instantly
recorded.
pay out? But anyways.
Exactly. So I
Yeah, how can the
wasn't able
bet
to
go on
follow up
record
with
if
him.
the game never, like, that
Yeah,
touchdown
like,
is not a touchdown in NFL history, is it?
I don't know.
I don't know
I
either.
don't think so. I don't think it counts towards Boyd's stats. So that would be very unfortunate.
That would be an
For that
unfortunate
guy, but
loss. Yeah.
I mean, the situation is bigger than just a bet. But anyway, so Boyd scored on their first drive, and then the Bills went down and had a really good-looking drive. The O-line was amazing. Very little pressure to Josh Allen. He, scrambled a couple times, picked up some big yards, and it was on third down. We were in the red zone. We tried to hit Cole Beasley on the out route, and Josh Allen threw a ball that was like the defense. It was a ball that only he could catch. The defense wasn't able to make a play on it. However, it was a little too far out. He couldn't make the catch. We had to settle for a field goal, and we thought it was just going to be a back and forth battle. And then the Bengals. So what actually happened on the second drive, or the Bengals' second drive? There was a fumble on the kickoff.
Oh wow.
But he was ruled down, and since it was like a kickoff, they can't go to there's some rule where like they weren't going to review it or something.
Because
but I mean,
it's just
and I'm
like,
not sure.
yeah.
And I'm not for sure if it was a fumble. Like he could have fumbled after the fact, but a part of me after the game thought, like, if that call's different,
Yeah.
who knows? Anyways,
That's just playing the what if game.
no, absolutely. And what ends up happening is T. Higgins gets the first down catch, and just does what any football player would do in a big game, is fighting for extra yards. And Damar Hamlin, it seems routine. He gets back up and immediately collapses. And after the play, when you're watching at home, you pretty much can only see what the feed is showing. So you were able to see it live more than I was, because after the play, it was just like, oh, another Bengals first down. The people around me are cheering, and then it's, oh, someone's injured. And kind of a sad thing is that there wasn't an immediate panic, just because injuries are a part of football, and we know that. And even when the ambulance was coming out, there wasn't necessarily, like, obviously you're hurting for him, but there wasn't that panic of this is worse than a head injury,
or an ankle
a knee injury
yeah.
or something of that sort. And everyone was kind of just waiting for him to get up or to get stretchered off and the game to resume. And someone in my row had mentioned she said they're doing CPR, and me and my friend Patrick, we were both camp counselors, so we had first aid training and all that, and we looked at each other, and you're only administering CPR if there's no pulse and they're not breathing. So we immediately were like, they're not doing CPR, because we thought it was like a concussion or something. And then even in my 300 level seats, which were great seats, no complaints. Thank you, Jim Dunn, for bringing me along
Shout
to
out.
Cincinnati. But from my 300 seats, I actually in between the whole, all the players and stuff, I had a line of sight on the doctor or the medical staff man who was administering CPR. I could actually see CPR happening, and it was then where I was like, he could be dead, and that was a really scary feeling. And quickly the whole stadium was dead silent, and after 10 minutes ago where everybody was on their feet cheering crazy, it's completely silent. And it made me think, earlier in the season, Tua Tagovailoa had to get stretchered off in Cincinnati in a primetime game as well, coincidentally. And with most NFL stadiums, there's probably a season ticket holder or someone who's been to any home game type of thing in your area. And I asked the guy in front of me who said that he was at the Tua game. I said, what was the energy like at the Tua game after? Because I couldn't process in my brain that game getting resumed and fans going back to going nuts and cheering for touchdowns and first downs.
Couldn't.
And he said the energy kind of didn't really shift that much, and it kind of remained at the same level.
Wow.
But I couldn't imagine it for this game, and we were just kind of waiting. And then he gets taken off the field, and the teams are still out there. No one really knows what's going on. Now on the Jumbotron at this point, we have the game has been temporarily suspended. Just wait for further information, that sort of thing. And we didn't really know what to do. The teams go back to the dressing room. People are speculating. They're just giving them time to, go like re-prep for the game, come back 10, 15 minutes later and resume. And the longer that went on, the less hope there was that was going to happen. And another really interesting thing that I could see from my seat too was I could see the road in which the ambulance exits the stadium and goes onto the highway. And it was about 15 minutes after he had been taken off the field where that ambulance went out. And that was scary as well, because there was a 15-minute period where we couldn't see the ambulance, and he could have died in the tunnel type of thing. But once that ambulance came out with sirens, we knew that he was at least alive and being taken to the hospital. And then it was kind of just like, there's no way this game's going to resume. People, everyone's on their phone texting loved ones, calling people who know they're at the game to ask about it, stuff like that. And then the telling sign was the Bills training staff came back out onto the field and started loading carts and bringing equipment back into the dressing room.
That's kind of
where people knew the game wasn't going to resume. And we didn't know if the game was going to be played the next day, next week, what it meant. It was so late in the season where nobody knew the answer.
You can't really guess those things either.
The only thing we knew was we had the flight back home tomorrow, and I couldn't go to sleep much. I had to because I had an early flight. I got 3 hours of sleep that night, but I didn't really want to go to sleep at 4 a.m. just because I was still processing it. And even today, I like I said, it's easier to talk about knowing the recovery he's made, but still for a while after that, I was processing that, and it's something that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. I don't think I'll ever forget that game, that experience, exactly how I felt, exactly how the energy shifted. And yeah, I mean, as a Bills fan, it was hard. And the thing too is, while the game was going on, the first 9 minutes, it's all like trash talk and stuff like that. But everyone in the stadium, it seemed, became, friends.
Yeah.
As soon as this happened, just I remember chatting with the people, around me for an hour, because it was an hour between when it first happened to when we got confirmation that was happening. And it was crazy. And yeah, so I just wanted to share my personal experience, because hopefully, if there was any interest on what the fans' perspective or what it was like to be there was like, I hope this is able to give you some of that. And again, it's not for attention or views or anything. It's just simply just sharing my experience, and the prayers for tomorrow seem to be answered. And yeah, thank
goodness.
I think we've gone over it. And we
And
can.
it's like if anyone else was even in the stadium and feels those same things, but is like unsure of even how they feel, it's something where it's like if that's a shared experience for people, but they like it's probably a shared experience for everyone in the stadium, but everyone internalizes it in their own way, and so maybe hearing someone else talk about it will be good. I don't know. But
No, it's
even the
such
millions
an
of people who've
emotional
seen,
experience.
even the millions of people who've seen the clip or watched the game at home, like they're processing in their own ways. So I think sharing about it's the best way to overcome that. And of course, he's back at home now, which is I think the most incredible news to come out of all this is that he was tweeting within like 48 hours. He was watching the Bills. He asked the score, like
Oh, and then
incredible.
just, you know, just wanting to throw in, we're not going to talk about Week 18 too much, if at all, but
No, most likely
but
not.
Naeem Hines, I have to mention on the opening kickoff,
Of
returning it
course.
for a touchdown. It you you can't write a moment better than that, I don't
Yeah,
think. And the fact that he did it again in the same game, I think
it's
everybody
crazy.
was cheering for a third because 3 was the magic number
Well,
with
yeah, and then it was like
Damar and all that.
later on in that game, they kicked another one to him, and they kicked it out of bounds, so the Bills got to start
Yeah.
on the 40 because
Yeah,
they just
so
didn't
no,
want him to return it.
they squibbed it, and I was like, oh, they're not letting him return, and then it rolled out of bounds, and I was like, let's
Like
go.
that's just as
Patriots
good.
are stupid. That's a very unpatriots.
I know,
I feel like
but
a Bill Belichick team would be like, we can still stop him, even if he's
yeah,
had 5 touchdowns today.
but like
It was a great
I
victory,
think that
and
was the game. Like everyone doesn't like the Patriots. I think that might have been the game that the most people were rooting against the Patriots.
oh, for sure,
Like
ever
there's
maybe.
yeah, ever exactly. Like
And even though it was a Week 18 game, sure it clinched the 2 seed. And when we get into the playoffs, I'll talk more about the NFL's response to the game not happening. But we clinched the 2 seed, knocked the Patriots off. It was a Week 18 game. I honestly would put that game in my top 5 personal favorite Bills games that I've
that
ever watched.
yeah, that Patriots one.
Just because it was a good game too. Like it wasn't until later in the game where the Bills pulled away when Mac Jones had trouble with some turnovers, balls were tipped.
Yeah, the Bills wanted to.
3 interceptions.
Yeah, Bills wanted the Patriots to stay in the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean,
That's
the
what
Bills
it
will
felt
stress
like
you out a
watching
little
it.
bit.
There was a few mistakes that were made, but I mean the Bills are still such a wagon.
But 2 deep touchdowns as well, John Brown and Diggs, and I feel like it's been a while since Allen has connected on one of those, so it's encouraging to see going into the playoffs, especially against the Patriots, who are known for having their good defense.
Yeah.
Being able to score, 14 of those points came from return touchdowns, but still, I think putting up 35 points in the last game of the season, it's going to be good. And I think they've got the momentum and the support. A selfish part of me after the Hamlin incident, thought, how can you cheer against the Bills at this point? I think obviously the teams that don't
teams that don't like the
teams,
Bills,
fans of
yeah.
other teams are going to cheer against the Bills, but I think I would compare this Bills playoff run to like Vegas in 2018 in NHL, where it was just like casual fans can even get behind it, and it's just because Buffalo already great fan base, great football city, so they have a lot of fans from all over the world. Anyways, haven't won a Super Bowl before, and then Damar Hamlin on top of it. I think there's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's the story gets even richer. And then yeah, off a big Week 18 win, coasting into into the postseason with some momentum, it's pretty good. Carolina did the same. Wish we did it.
Yeah, big win.
Wish we did it the week before.
As soon as they won that game against the Saints, it made me think it's like, if they beat the Bucks, they'd be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, one win away.
One win away, which
you wouldn't imagine.
Which no, you definitely wouldn't imagine. So I have a few notes about them. If we never, it's my favorite team. I'm wearing the Jags jersey because they made the playoffs, but they're my favorite team. What?
I said, and shout out Peyton Campbell.
And shout out Peyton Campbell.
Little influence on the jersey, I'm sure too.
But like, just a question: if they never trade for Baker Mayfield, do they make the playoffs? Do they win an extra game? Do you think he was a cause of failure? I think in week 1, if the defense makes a stop on that last drive, they win that game, so I can't put it on Baker. But he played some miserable games and lost us a few weeks.
The only thing I think is just I don't like. Is it is PJ
Like
Walker the
exact.
difference
That's what
maker?
I'm thinking. Like if
Because
it's
Darnold
PJ
wasn't
Walker
available at the
instead, we
start of the season.
still are. It's like that's. I don't know how much better
I think
PJ
with a
would have
healthy
been.
Darnold all season,
Oh, for sure.
The Panthers might not only win the division, and I mean I'm only flipping it from what would have been 8-9 to like 9-8, 10-7. I think they could have had a winning record because
Oh
maybe a
yeah.
little bit of a better start would have kept Christian McCaffrey around, and they really leaned on the run game when Darnold came back. Like he's not required to make too many throws,
I
but
think
he makes them when he needs to, and with Foreman and Hubbard, I think
as a
that's
unit they
encouraging. That's
played better.
encouraging.
As a unit, they played better offense once they traded McCaffrey.
And that does tend to happen
Yeah.
sometimes when a superstar leaves. The supporting cast can
Yeah.
take their stats and pick up the slack a little bit.
Which they were. But
It's
even
like
then,
the Sabres getting better without
yeah,
Eichel.
without Eichel, that's exactly it. But it's like even then with Eichel or not Eichel with McCaffrey leaving, DJ Moore didn't take that necessary step up that people thought, and it's not like we have a QB room that elevates wide receivers, but still, you're the star of the team now, and yet you're letting Foreman look better than you, which
Yeah,
he looked awesome. He
I
looked
think the most
great, but it's like
I want to confirm Foreman's age. You keep talking.
he's like 26, 27. Like he's not the oldest, but just journeyman.
Like how I just searched up Foreman. That was
Foreman.
it, as I expected Deonta Foreman to pop
But
up.
but no, just
George
for my
Foreman
notes that I
drill.
wrote down before we started this is that Darnold looked great in his few
Okay.
return. Yeah, okay. But Darnold looked great. He limited turnovers was the biggest thing. No, like he went on a big run without interceptions or fumbles, and was his touchdown to interception ratio looked really good by the end of the season. And next year, Chuba Hubbard should be great too. I say draft another offensive lineman, rely more on this run game, ride with Darnell for an extra season, have him battle with Corral, and then give Chuba the ball, and we can have a efficient winning offense. But something that I didn't include in that was DJ Moore. I don't. That puzzle piece doesn't fit anymore. I don't think. I don't know if he's gonna be around much longer. Even with
Really
Darnell,
yeah. And the thing is too is it's just, I think they're so thin at receiver that they're a little bit handcuffed to hold on to him unless you're making like a AJ Brown for a first round pick and then you take a receiver type.
Yeah,
trade.
that's what I had in mind of getting. It wouldn't be a first, but it would definitely be like
I
multiple
think they
receiver
definitely
talents.
need to, whether it's in free agency or the draft, bring in a receiver because outside of Moore, Terrace Marshall had a couple games.
He had like
really like
3 or
Laviska Shenault
4
as like a weapon. Like I think he's just versatile. I think if you can play him well. The thing is too is it's just unless Steve Wilkes stays around, who was the head coach after Rule was out, I feel like it's going to be unpredictable because when a new head coach comes in, they tend to they could if a new head coach comes in, they could take a quarterback at pick 5 pick.
It's a bottom. It's top 10. I really hope they don't, but I completely see what you mean.
I think it depends. I think if you're looking at potentially drafting a guy like C.J. Stroud, I don't think he'll be there because I think teams will trade up for the quarterbacks in this draft.
I think Bryce and him will both get traded up for in the top 3.
I wouldn't mind him taking an offensive lineman as well. They took Ike Ekwonu last year.
Yeah, that's what I want. Just like the biggest thing for that for me was Darnell getting a concussion from being sacked so much and having to do so many run plays with just an inefficient offensive line. The less punishment he takes, the better QB he's going to be and a more confident runner with the ball. And when he is a runner, he's great. He's mobile.
And the offensive line would bolster the run game, which already looking like pretty encouraging for next season.
So that's why I say grab another offensive lineman.
I like that. I think if whoever comes in or if it's Wilkes, they have enough confidence in Darnold, that's what you do. But who knows?
Yeah,
it's going to be a very interesting offseason for every team. But Panthers are certainly one of those teams.
I think at least Darnold has potential for a trade, which is the best thing from that because Baker had done by the end of his time.
I think the reason that I'm really excited for this offseason compared to like last year, I would say, is just because of the quarterback market. Like there was obviously the Rodgers rumors last year, Russell Wilson going to Denver, it's pretty big, but I felt like a lot of the teams had their quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, like there weren't a ton of
There were no rumors for the
starters,
Panthers.
but next season, first of all, I'll mention that there's probably four at least first-round quarterbacks this year with Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. I think they'll get taken in the first round. But you got teams like the Raiders, now even the Jets, they don't trust Zach Wilson. Maybe they do. Maybe they bring in a vet instead.
Maybe they ride with Mike White.
QB.
But, yeah, exactly.
The Seahawks, how long's Geno going to be there? Even the Lions, I think it wouldn't hurt. I feel like Goff's probably a good guy to play in front of a rookie. And just because he's solid, but he does have that ceiling that I don't think he'll really break into.
Yeah, I think they let him make the playoffs for them before they ship him off.
No,
but exactly,
we'll
he could do that.
Beating the Packers.
He could do that behind
awesome.
or in front of a rookie. So
no, so there's just a lot of and no bias, but quarterback is such an important position, and it really defines a team, except for one team that we'll be talking about in our playoff predictions, San Francisco.
Yeah, that team doesn't need a quarterback, apparently. I think I could suit up. No disrespect. Brock Purdy is awesome.
He's playing great.
He's so calm, cool, and collected back there. The 4 years in college are definitely, like, you can tell.
Shanahan just makes it, his system is very QB friendly, and with a guy like Christian McCaffrey is a good safety net.
Yeah.
Kittle as well has been.
But I've seen film.
Since
yeah. True. I've seen film of him, and it's just like, even when he gets blitzed and everything like that, he still gets throws off, like, incredibly. So it's like, you could tell he was a very effective college QB, so it makes sense that he transitions well.
Like, yes, he's Mr. Irrelevant, but it's like a quarterback that gets drafted into the NFL is you would go and watch him play in, like, your local rec league. He'd
dominate everyone.
He'd look like Mahomes mixed with, Michael Vick. But this is like a combo of everything. But yeah.
Plus, there's only 10 to 15 quarterbacks drafted every year. Like, you're 10 of, like, one of the best quarterbacks. You're in the top 10 of quarterbacks in the entire nation.
For that given draft class.
Exactly.
No, I agree. Do you have more that you wanted to talk about with the Panthers? Or?
No, my last two notes are just next season playoffs. And if they take another step back, I don't know how much more I can invest in them as a team. Because the management has proven to be not top of the line. Not top of the line. It's hard to be patient, but, like, there's been no forward progress, and that's worrisome. Rather than a different team that has had a lot of forward progress lately.
The Jaguars.
Who have looked amazing.
This year, for sure. I think sometimes when things aren't working, you do need to take a step back to take a step forward, though. And, I mean, technically, this year would be a step up. They definitely had more wins than they did last year with 7, and being 1 game out of the playoffs isn't too bad. And if Brady leaves the Buccaneers, if Brady leaves the Buccaneers, you're looking at the Falcons under Desmond Ridder year 2, and then he only has three or 4 starts this year, so it's like a year 1 pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. And then the Saints
with the Saints quarterback, and then the Buccaneers. If it's not Brady, it's
Kyle Trask, Garoppolo. Like, yeah, who knows?
But yeah, I think we should jump into the playoffs just because.
Well, I mean, these playoffs look amazing, and
I think it's going to be a great playoff.
So I have mine written down in the order that they're going to be televised in.
Okay, you can read them off.
So I'll read them off, and then we'll give some picks and thoughts. So Saturday has 2 wildcard games. The first one is Seahawks versus 49ers, which I'll give my pick for first because I think, like, the Seahawks had a great run, but it's just the consistency of the 49ers. And while I do think they're not, we'll see. I'll talk about that more. I do think this 49ers team has a ceiling. I don't think the wild card is their ceiling, so I think they move on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's not necessarily a non-contest, but I would, I'm pretty confident that the 49ers are going to take this one. Yep. I think that's my pick. The only thing that I would really say could hurt them is if all Purdy, takes a dump on live television and has like a 3 interception game.
Yeah.
And he's looks nothing like he's looked the past 3 weeks. Pete Carroll has a great game. But even then, the thing about this 49ers team is the number one scoring defense and number one defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
They might only need to score like 16 points to win a game.
Yeah.
Like they can hold the Seahawks to like under 14.
And their defense is capable of doing that, so.
Mm-hmm. And I think the X factors of this game, Brock Purdy, obviously.
Yep.
Christian McCaffrey, second time in the playoffs, I want to say. I think he was part of the Panthers, like the last Cam Newton Panthers playoff team. Maybe not even, though.
Did they make it in 2017? Because I know they didn't make it since then. I know they didn't make it 2018 or 2019.
Last.
Yeah,
but so Christian McCaffrey, I think it'll be interesting to see how he performs. Who's on the other side? Seahawks. Kenneth Walker. I want to see how he does in his first game. I think if they can get like 100-yard rushing game from him, that's going to be massive.
I doubt it though. If that's the over/under, I'm picking the under.
Panthers' last playoff appearance. That's quite interesting that the Florida Panthers was the first thing to pop up.
Interesting, yeah. I guess your Google
over an NFL team.
Guess your Google thinks you're.
They made it in 2017. I think that was the year that he was drafted.
Yeah.
In his rookie year.
In his rookie year, then probably.
But no, so Christian McCaffrey, I think am I cutting out? I just see my my video kind of tweaking.
I can hear you fine. Yeah, there you go. You're good now.
So Christian McCaffrey versus Kenneth Walker. I think it'll be a run-heavy game. Neither of these offenses are too pass-heavy, but if they need to make a play, they can. Debo's. I don't think he played in the regular season finale or the second last week, but he should be good to see. I can't remember. But yeah, I don't need to talk too much about that game.
I have nothing more
I think the 49ers will win, unless everybody on the 49ers underperforms and everybody on the Seahawks underperforms.
Aside from catastrophe, this will be a 49ers win. The second game.
I do have a question for you.
Oh, yes.
If you were told before the season that there will be a playoff game with Geno Smith playing against Brock Purdy, what would you think?
I think who and Geno?
Geno in the Seahawks? Did he get traded at the time?
Yeah, but why? Who wants Geno? And then he goes off. Yeah, and then Brock Purdy is who?
I shamefully admit that I thought maybe Drew Lock was going to be the starter.
Oh, I fully admit I thought Drew Lock was going to be the starter.
Just because of the
age
factor.
Wrong. So yeah, the second matchup on Saturday is the Chargers versus the Jaguars. I'll let you give your prediction first because I'm wearing a jersey.
Yeah, so I think we could defer on this one.
I think
because I do have the Chargers. The reason I picked the Chargers is because I don't know. I think, the Jags had their number earlier this season. They do have a head-to-head matchup, and that was like T-Law's. Like obviously in his rookie season, he showed signs of greatness, but they only had 3 wins. I'd say that win against the Chargers was like he is everything we expected.
It was just coming up
already. He had like probably 300+ yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, something like that.
Exactly. That was.
So
awesome.
If there's a repeat of performance, I think they're in really good shape. The only reason I have questions around the Jaguars is just because the way that their offense played last week. Credit to the Titans' defense. They played very well too, but the game-winning touchdown was a defensive touchdown for the Jaguars. And if that didn't happen, they might not be in the playoffs.
Sure.
And I think the Chargers' D is getting healthier and healthier. There's a lot of flack around Braden Staley right now because he played his starters last week. They lost and had some injuries. Mike Williams, the latest update I have is that he's day-to-day, which is really encouraging. Day-to-day around the playoffs typically means they're going to play just because,
you better
win,
play.
the season's over.
Yeah.
There was a Monday night game or some primetime game last season where Keenan Allen was day-to-day and then he played, but he had 1 catch. So it could be one of those games with Williams. He might kind of feel it out in the beginning and then not play. But with a guy like Justin Herbert, he'll have Keenan Allen, he'll have Austin Eckler, and the supporting pieces around them like Josh Palmer, guys like that. I think it is enough, and their defense is clicking at the right time. And I just think when I think about the Jaguars, yes, they beat the Chargers earlier this season. That's a quality win. They beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys have kind of looked weird, but I just think of their games against like teams like the Chiefs. Chiefs looked like the better team, and I just feel like when they do play those quality teams, I'm less hyped about them. I think this game could go either way. They're obviously have the home field advantage, so Jacksonville's going to be roaring. It's going to be a really fun game to see, and that's the night game, I guess, if that's the second one.
That
so
is the 8.
I'll be tuning in for sure. I think the announcers will be salivating over Lawrence and Herbert and the future of the quarterbacks in the AFC.
It's gonna be so.
It's
gonna be a hype game.
No, but I'm really excited for it, and I think it's gonna be a great game. And I have the Chargers, but that doesn't mean that I'm shocked if the Jaguars win.
My pick is the Jaguars, and my pick is more so based off perception. This Chargers team more or less has limped into this position from the season they had, and there was serious doubts that they were even going to make it. Like, the Patriots were going to make it over them, and if the Patriots made it, I picked the Jaguars over the Patriots still. So it's like, and the Jaguars have been rolling lately with some close wins, but the perception of this Jaguars team is that they're finally a winner, and they've been rolling a lot better than they have in years past, and Doug Peterson is making this team a legit contender. And of course, at the start of the season, no one thought they'd be here, and so now they're playing with a chip on their shoulder too, and their defense is surprisingly good. Like, their defense keeps them in so many tight games.
Their defense, maybe there's holes here and there. I mean, they were the worst team in the league last year. They're obviously going to have holes, but they have those.
They drafted so well. They drafted so incredibly too. With not only the first pick, but like their secondary is also incredible now.
No, I really like them. I'm just bringing up the Chargers again, just because I kind of want to give them a little more credit. They did lose to the Broncos last week, but they didn't really play their starters in the second half after they realized, oh shit, this isn't a good idea. But both times they've played the Chiefs, they've lost by 3. So played the Chiefs
games.
well twice. Only lost by 6 to the 49ers. And then in the last month and a bit, they beat the Titans, which they beat the Jaguars did beat the Jaguars last week. And then they beat the Dolphins with Tua. I think that was a really quality win. And I think that win kind of made them realize, like, we can make the playoffs and make noise potentially. It's going to be a great game.
I picked the Chargers to be the leader of their division going into the season. So it's like I had them being good, but just all season I've watched this team.
They definitely haven't lived up to the expectations.
This team plays like an old man walks who needs a hip replacement. It's just tough. Like, you could see the potential there, but God, it's like, oh, I want them to be better, but they're not. And I'm not setting myself up for that disappointment. The Jaguars are going to squeak out a win. It's going to be an incredible story, and it's going to be a feel-good moment. And
yeah, both quarterbacks first time in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so there's
and
no
Trevor Lawrence,
experience edge
future of the league.
I think the edge that the Jaguars absolutely have, and you can't really contest it, is in the head coach department. I really like Doug Peterson.
I love Doug Peterson. This is actually the matchup of our fantasy dynasty league quarterbacks, or for mine originally all season I had Herbert and Trevor Lawrence rostered, and then I recently traded it Herbert to Nolan, but it is my quarterbacks I was riding with, and after riding with them all year, I'm taking Trevor Lawrence. Give me T-Law.
Yeah, so no, I'm excited about him.
Yeah, but that might be my favorite game.
He'll make a great debut. I think he'll show up for sure.
Yeah.
Just will the team around him, can they outplay the Chargers?
But this is the game I'm most excited for.
I think it'll be a game that comes down to a game-winning drive on either side.
I'd love that. I'd love that so much.
That would be great.
That'd be amazing.
Get to the next game.
So Sunday opens up with Dolphins versus Bills. I feel like we don't have to talk about this one too much because either Skylar Thompson or Teddy Bridgewater will be starting.
Yeah, and been ruled out.
They beat the Jets last week.
But 9-6.
Yeah, without a touchdown. I'm picking the Bills.
9-6 on a game-winning field goal too.
I'm picking the Bills. Bills are
with 17 seconds left. Yeah,
it's not even gonna be close.
I think if Tua was in there, it's more of a game.
It's a debate.
Just because the team plays with more confidence when, it's their best quarterback in the lineup.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably somewhat of a psychological effect just playing with your third string quarterback that has on the players, a little bit less confidence, whatnot. But yeah, we don't need to talk about that too much.
It's Bills.
I think the Bills will steamroll over them at home,
Yeah, it's not going to be
Dolphins
close.
haven't really looked good in the last, couple weeks. They were 8-3 and beating the Bills for the division lead, and at the end of the season are 4 games back of the division, and that's with the Bills not even having that 17th game.
Yeah. So
could have been a win, could have been a loss.
But I'm just happy they made it in the 7th seed, right where I put them. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I completely forgot to pull up our preseason predictions. We could get into that after we do the wild card round, is what I'm thinking.
Or we can get into it after
our
predictions.
Okay, let's do that.
So moving on to the next game, which I believe is the
Giants game.
Yep.
Viking Giants. I'll let you go first this time.
I think we're probably going to agree on this one.
I don't know.
Just because, I also see either team being able to take this. They played on Christmas Day, and it came down to a 60-yard game-winning field goal for the Vikings. I do have the Vikings winning this one, just because, one, they're the home team.
That does help. That helps
in the NFL, being the home team is massive. The Vikings didn't make the playoffs last year. I'm trying to think the last time they did make the playoffs, but it's Daniel Jones's playoff debut too. I feel like I kind of have a weird feeling that he might not have as good of a game as he's been this season. That they don't have many receivers that jump off the page. I think you shut down Saquon, and the game becomes a lot easier. That's easier said than done, obviously.
Yeah, it's Saquon Barkley.
I love Brian Daboll. I think it's between him and Doug Peterson for my coach of the year.
Yep.
But former Bills offensive coordinator, he's done fantastically with the Giants. Love to see it. But I don't know. I think Kirk Cousins versus Daniel Jones. It's like they're kind of like similar. They're both number 8. They're both white quarterbacks. Daniel Jones a little more mobile.
Yeah, he moves the ball a lot better with his feet. They both have similar issues with their arm too.
Mm-hmm. And the Vikings, even though it was the Bears last week, they did really recover nicely from that Packers defeat.
That was rough.
I mean, the Packers defeat was not good and not a good look, but Justin Jefferson got locked down. If that doesn't happen, who knows how that game even goes? If Jefferson has 100 yards in the first half, like he has I think he did against the Packers in week 1 this season.
Yeah, he killed them.
He killed them. But yeah, I don't know. So you go into your pick.
I'm picking the Giants, just because this Vikings team seems faulty to me.
No, they have. Well, I think with the Bears win, they got positives.
Yeah. But they're just they haven't done enough to prove to me that they'll win, and just all the signs point towards them losing.
Oh no, they did finish. They were negative 3-point differential on the season.
They just haven't given me a reason to pick
crazy,
them. They've been clutch in their 1-score games. That was a crazy stat for them. But it's I still have no reason to believe in them, and just the Giants.
I love the Giants D.
I like the Giants D, and I like the Giants offense. I like the Giants offense transitioning into playoffs more than I like the Vikings offense transitioning into the playoffs.
The thing I will give the Vikings credit to is, sustainability in terms of a regular season for all their 1-score wins over the course of 100 games isn't going to stay, but in the playoffs, team that's able to win those 1-score games,
they do have an advantage.
Rate, I think you gotta give them credit. But the Giants, they've surprisingly cut down on turnovers a lot.
Daniel Jones has been way better for that.
Way better, but yeah, I think this will be a really good game too. It was close when we saw it. I hope it's close again.
Yeah.
I'm just taking the Vikings because
they're good. They're a really good team. So, no doubt there. Then the last game of Sunday is Ravens versus Bengals. And I feel like we don't have to talk about this one much either because Lamar's not going to be playing. or at
Is
least
that
that's
confirmed?
not confirmed, but it's like
I know he's not practicing.
it's a long shot if he's playing,
Yeah,
and
it's
I've
an
heard
uphill battle.
yeah, uphill battle. He's not gonna play. So, even if he did play, I'm still going Bengals. And I don't even think you really have to think too hard about it. I really think this is the Bengals game to lose.
I would agree. I think with Lamar, it's a very different game. Burrow has, like, in this two games against the Ravens, even though they've won both matchups, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not, though. Maybe they lost the first.
I'm not too sure. But
the Bengals D is, or the Ravens D has actually done quite well against Burrow, which, you know, if the D has confidence that, you know, they can get enough stops for their offense, it's a big thing. So they beat them last week, obviously, and the Ravens actually won 19-17 earlier in the season against the Bengals. So I think if Lamar plays, it's a lot closer than people give this game credit for. I do have the Bengals winning just because Lamar's probably not going to play.
I have
the Bengals are
winning.
the hottest team in the AFC, at least right now. They're on an 8-game win streak. A little bit of an asterisk next to it just because they had a voided game. But, you know, a lot of people argue, oh, they're up 7-3. They were driving. They're going to win that game.
You can't tell. It's the first quarter. You can't tell.
You know, you would have thought the Atlanta Falcons won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago if you judge the game that way. So anything can happen. But yeah, so I have the Chargers. We don't have to talk about it too much just because I don't think even if the Ravens win this game, somehow I don't think they're going to make a playoff run, so I don't think they're really worth mentioning. I think the question mark more goes towards, is Lamar done in Baltimore?
And that's definitely a question.
And before the season when he didn't sign his contract,
I thought yes.
I thought, you know, he's just gonna play, make sure he gets a little more money, maybe more guaranteed money, even though he was offered a lot.
He's offered the most, like,
you know, after 2 seasons in a row, and I'm not like saying he's not injured or anything, but 2 seasons in a row, he's pretty much shut down for the last, you know, 6-ish weeks of the season. So I think his time in Baltimore is honestly done. And
I agree.
I think the Jets are a team.
We could talk about this more in an off-season episode, but
that'll be one of the biggest headlines of the offseason.
Oh, for sure. So Bengals are gonna pick up that one. Monday, we only have one game. That's the Cowboys versus Buccaneers.
I think we have different picks.
I have the Cowboys winning this and moving on to the second round.
I have the Buccaneers winning this, and it's simply just because of Brady's never lost to the Cowboys in his career. The Buccaneers, who were not a good team this year, fooled everybody in week 1 that they were with a 19-3 win over the Cowboys.
That was funny.
So they had that head-to-head win, and I like Brady in a 1-game scenario over Dak Prescott.
I just like this Cowboys roster in a 1-game scenario even. I like the thought of either Pollard or Zeke going off, or Dak Prescott going off. He does have his interception issues that we know about against a Tampa Bay defense that's been their one thing that's been consistent all season. It's just been Tom Brady throws for high yards and good Tampa Bay defense. I like the Cowboys options too much, and I think Dak gets a little too much hate. I've seen a few of these suspect interceptions where it's like, that should have been a catch. But he should have been better this season with his time that he did play. I still like them to win this game. And this is not where they're getting disappointed yet. Just you wait, Cowboys fans.
I have a hypothetical question for you that obviously doesn't.
I can have a hypothetical answer for you.
But who would you take in a game right now? Tom Brady in the Buccaneers or Sam Howell in the Washington Commanders? Because that's who beat the Cowboys last week. So I don't know. I think the Bucs are probably.
I take Tom Brady, but I also don't trust Week 18. Which you could hear it in my bet picks video from when I bet on football. I said immediately, I don't trust Week 18. I don't trust anything.
There's a reason that it's not included in the fantasy season.
Exactly. And if you're in a league that uses Week 18, it's a joke league. Sorry. I'm sorry to tell you the truth.
Never lost to the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's the best point that you could have brought up, and it's such a good point. But it's just like, I think the Cowboys are gonna really disappoint their fans this year. I think a wild card exit's not enough teasing yet.
True.
But I just like, it's like I think they're gonna play a really good football team and just get expectations, or they're gonna play a really good football game and get expectations a bit too high. So
I think this game, I don't know.
it'll be a
I'm
good
just taking
game.
The Bucks.
It'll be a fun game no matter what.
That's it for the wild card.
Oh, I hope they really don't have another stinker like they did in that one primetime game. Was that
Cowboys?
was yeah, Cowboys Bucks.
It was Monday night, week 1.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So moving on to the next round. Now this is where we're gonna differ and just do our matchups. I'm gonna talk about the Chiefs first because that's just the 1 seed. And then the way I have it is Chiefs Jags, and I have the Chiefs ending the Jaguars run. They win the wild card, then they make the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs. That's all I gotta say about that. Nothing more.
Yeah. I have the Chiefs beating the Chargers. Like I said earlier, it's been a field goal game both times they've played.
That's a lot closer. That's a lot closer than what a Jaguars versus Chiefs game would be.
I think, and Mahomes versus Herbert, it could go either way. And another reason why I picked the Chiefs is just because the Chargers are in a 50-50 wild card game in my eyes. So I don't really,
don't like them in the division.
I don't even know if it's going to be the Chargers. So having them going all the way to the conference championship would be a little excessive. They can definitely do it. We'll see.
Extreme.
I don't think they will. I think the Chiefs probably may have their best game against the Chargers all season in this one. Mahomes is the MVP this season. I don't think anybody's questioning that.
Yeah.
Unless you live in Philadelphia. Or
that's not, even then. I don't think there's another candidate other than those two guys in my eyes.
Although think about
Josh
it,
Allen.
me in mid-season, I saw this Bengals team coming up, and Burrow deserved more. Like
he deserves more recognition.
There wasn't as much murmur about the crazy season that they had, and
how they
finished the season.
No one's talking about the Bengals right now.
Well,
they talk about they talk about Burrow
for an MVP.
Yeah, they talk about how
I think
cool
people
Burrow
are hyped
is.
about the Bengals right now,
But,
and
yeah.
rightfully so.
But the next, I'll talk about the Eagles now because they're the other 1 seed. And mine would be Eagles versus Giants.
Yep.
Okay, that's Eagles. Giants are nice, but just like the Jaguars, this is a building block year for them. They're not really getting past the wild card, but maybe in the future. But this is a great building block season for the Giants, but the Eagles are one of the main contenders in the league in my eyes.
One thing to note, though, is that, I mean, it is Week 18, but the Eagles, even though they won, didn't really look great against the Giants, and the Giants were starting Davis Webb at quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
but the Eagles were playing
off of a playoff win. I don't know. I think that'd be a really good game. It's a playoff. It's
but getting Hurts
too.
back in rather than Minshew, it's like the Eagles are gonna be so good again.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think they need to win this one, obviously, but
of course.
But they need this divisional win to be able to, just because I think there will be a little bit of rust there, just because of the bye
and your
one game in the last month.
Yeah.
So they'll need to shake off that rust. But I also have the Eagles winning their matchup.
Who's yours matchup?
They're playing the Buccaneers, so they get the revenge. On Buccaneers from last season, and a part of me was kind of like, oh, well, the Bucs kind of like made the Eagles look bad last year in the playoffs, but they didn't have AJ Brown. This Eagles team is different than last year as well. 70 sacks in the regular season, which is third all time in NFL history, only 2 behind the NFL record, which is the 1984 Bears.
Crazy what teams used to do without that extra game.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And then there's the extra game, obviously, on top of that. But, it's not like you're getting 10 sacks in a game or having one extra game. Like,
completely throws off the stats. Or 4.
Yeah, well, they had 2 against the Eagles. They had a chance to tie the record, but only 70. But,
only 70. It's crazy. What a crazy number.
Yeah. They were third in the league in point differential, plus 133. They were one of the better. They were the team that lost their first game last. Also lost to the Commanders, but I think they're good. The number 2 scoring offense in the league. I think AJ Brown just fits in.
He's such a difference maker too.
And honestly, A.J. Brown, great season. Probably the Eagles' number one receiver this year. But Devonta Smith in that second half was just fantastic.
He was on fire.
He is going to be a big part of a playoff run if they make one.
For sure. Next matchup would be the Bills versus Bengals, because we both have that. And although I love the Bengals and I had them winning in preseason, I think versus the Chiefs in this matchup, in this position, I'm picking the Bills.
I think we both have the Bills as our 1 seed.
Yeah, so I'm picking the Bills here
I'm
over the
picking
Bengals.
The Bills. It's hard.
It's hard. That was one of my toughest decisions to make.
Just because it was going to be a close game, I believe. So what I don't necessarily get is if the Bills and the Chiefs play in the AFC Championship, which we both have written, which I think will happen. It's going to be played on a neutral site, and I'm all for that just because you don't know what was going to happen in that Bengals game. But what I don't get is how this Bills-Bengals game isn't being played at a neutral site, because if the Bengals won that game, they would have been the higher seed and had the home game.
They would have been the 2.
If I'm making that rule, I would have just said any playoff game that could be affected by the Bills-Bengals game
being canceled
should be played at a neutral site, and that would be, the Bills-Chiefs.
I agree.
Or Bills-Bengals. We know that the Chiefs won in Week 18, so the Bengals wouldn't have been able to have any advantage over the Chiefs because they did have that 4th loss. But yeah, I mean,
that's
I have the Bills over the Bengals. I just think they do have the home field advantage. I feel a little bit guilty about it, but I mean,
how could you not?
But
it is what it is.
That game, and we're not, and we don't even have to play the Bengals in the second round.
Yeah.
We're the ones playing the Chargers or the Jaguars. I think the Bills maybe get a little shafted there in terms of, I think if the Chiefs have to play the Bengals in the second round, and it would have been the Dolphins, I guess, in the first round, which,
same results,
but same result. I don't know, I have the Bills. They're getting healthier. Micah Hyde's now practicing.
Yeah, good timing.
He was supposed to be out for season, I'm pretty sure. So
that's what it was announced.
If we're able to get him back, he'll for sure be in the building. Whether or not he's on the field, DeMar Hamlin could make an impact.
Just with his presence, he'll make an impact.
I think. Well, I mean, he's going to be in the stadium. He's going to potentially be on the sideline. I mean, I doubt in Buffalo he would willingly choose to be on. I mean, he loves his teammates, but you could have a nice press box instead of sitting in the cold. But I have the Bills over the Bengals. It's a tough pick to make, and I feel like it's harder. Like there's an extra layer of like when I pick my own team. Like, it's extra difficult to pick my own team. Just
I can't pick the Leafs for anything.
To win a playoff round, exactly. So, yeah. And then the final game would be the Niners matchup. You have them playing the Cowboys.
I do. And who do you have them playing?
I have them playing the Vikings.
Okay, so I'll go into mine.
So
I'm going 49ers versus Cowboys, and I have the 49ers falling off here. I have a magical game by the Cowboys being played.
I think that would be a great second round matchup.
I think the Cowboys get revenge. I think wasn't this the matchup last year?
Wild card game.
Yep. So I have the Cowboys getting their revenge after a very good wild card game that they somehow get the win in. They're just gonna have a magical game. It's just gonna work. Everything's gonna click in this game for the Cowboys, is what I want to believe, and that's what I'm believing. Setting them up for Eagles matchup in the next round, getting everyone really excited that they could be a Super Bowl contender. We'll see where that goes.
I have the Niners beating the Vikings. I think
that's
they
just
match
fair.
Up very well against them.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings against the Giants, Seahawks, there's teams where they can have a good close playoff game, but the Vikings I have just outside of my true contenders list, and I think if they play any of those teams, they'll probably fall flat. If you were interested, my true contenders are the Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Eagles, 49ers. And sure, I'm picking the top 2 seeds in both conferences,
and then one
the Bengals
extra.
are the 3 seed, but
Yeah, you're more or less just choosing to exclude the NFC 30.
I don't think the Super Bowl winner isn't one of those teams. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree with
have the 49ers beating the Vikings, setting up Eagles 49ers, which will be a great game. Both conferences, I have 1 versus 2. And a part of me is like, oh, it can't be 1-2. But the fact is in the NFL, it tends to happen a lot just because, they're the 1 and 2 seed for a reason.
Fair.
I really believe that.
So yeah, you have both 1 and 2s moving on to the championship rounds.
I feel like we should do NFC first because we have the same AFC.
Okay. So my NFC, Eagles, Cowboys going on this great run, get probably destroyed by the Eagles here. That's honestly what I think. Eagles, after 3 straight weeks of playing football, coming off a bye week, no reason they're not going to be playing their best football at that point in time. Like if there's ever a time for them to go off, it is in that game for the Eagles.
It'll be their second consecutive week.
Oh, second.
It's crazy to think, like, the number 1 seed needs to win 2 games to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's like no one else is more set up to make the Super Bowl than the Eagles, especially getting this Cowboys team that I honestly think is going to be like hitting off the tee for them. So that's my NFC. Eagles to the Super Bowl. 1 seed.
And this is going to be interesting. I mean, they're the 2 seed in the conference, but I have the 49ers beating the Eagles on the road. Wow. It's going to be a tough game. I mean, Philly's a tough place to play in.
Playing in the Link.
But it's just such a good D where Purdy doesn't need to do that much, and he might not be the starter by now. Garoppolo could be back. I think if he's back, they're probably just going to roll with Purdy.
They've been so consistent with Purdy.
Christian McCaffrey is a huge X factor. Deebo Samuel as well. Kittle, I mentioned, has been crazy with. I want to get those exact stats because with Purdy, George Kittle has been an absolute monster. But yeah, so I think the 49ers, I don't know, they're the team even though they have Brock Purdy, they're the team I weirdly trust the most in the NFC.
That's
one thing I will say though is I think if you traded the Bills and Bengals for the Buccaneers and Vikings, so 2 division winners from 2 conferences, swap them, I think if you move those 2, it's going to be the Super Bowl would be Bills, Chiefs, or Bengals, Chiefs.
I agree.
I think those are the 3 teams that I think I see having the highest chance. It's just if I had to put it on one, it's tough because they're going to have to play each other, obviously. Anyways, last week, Kittle, only 4 receptions for 29 yards.
Then it's week 18.
2 of them were touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
It was a blowout, too. I'm sure he didn't play too much of that game. And then the week before, a little bit of a down game, 4 receptions for 23 yards, but another touchdown, so he's getting in the end zone. And then a crazy game against the Commanders, 6 receptions, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns.
That lost me a few matchups in fantasy.
And then the week before, 4 against the Seahawks, 4 receptions, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then
on 4 receptions, you said?
Yeah.
Oh my
93 yards, 2 touchdowns. Along of 54. He had a 4-yard touchdown.
That's incredible. What a crazy game.
Didn't do much against the Bucks. They kind of put that game away pretty early. And then didn't do much against the Dolphins, but that was the game where Purdy had to step in, so there wasn't necessarily that chemistry yet.
Yeah, there's no game plan.
I don't know. I just like this 49ers team because even though they don't have a great quarterback, they have a great defense, and they have complementary pieces on offense that can make Brock Purdy look better than he is.
Agreeable.
So that's my pick in the NFC.
So then we move on to our next round, which is Chiefs vs. Bills. And I think it sounded like you gave away your winner for this matchup with what you just said, but I could be wrong. So I'll let you go first. Because you were talking about if we move to the Bills or Bengals to the NFC.
No.
You said no matter what, the Super Bowl is going to be Chiefs versus one of those 2. But
because
this could be a Super Bowl on its own. Yeah.
Because they don't have to play the Bills in the AFC Championship, which they do in this universe. And I got the Bills beating the Chiefs.
Bills beating the Chiefs. I will go. I have it down on my board. I'm contrarian. I'm going Chiefs over the Bills.
Yeah, I think, part of me wants to pick the Chiefs, but the Bills have the head-to-head win, and I haven't really relied on that too much so far. But the Bills have the head-to-head win in Arrowhead. This game will be at a neutral site, which I don't know where it'll be. I feel like maybe Vegas because that's where the Super Bowl is and good indoor stadium.
And it would make sense to get the teams there early.
And it's exactly. They could just stay over
for a week.
They wouldn't have to travel.
I mean, I guess
That's
they'd have
probably
to.
where it would be now that I think of it.
And then I guess they'd take the Raiders practice facility.
Yeah,
That's my only that's my only question
during the week. Like they're gonna have to practice there for the Super Bowl anyway,
so sure,
they'd be fine.
Good point.
I think that's probably where it'd be. We don't know for sure.
I don't know why they wouldn't put them there.
But this Bills team, even with everything that's happened this season, being Micah Hyde going down early, now he might be back. I mean, if he's going to be back, I think he'll
at this point he'd be back.
Championship. Von Miller, losing him for the season is massive.
That sucks.
You can't really replace him. However, last year we didn't have Trey White, and he's back. He had a pick last week, which is really encouraging because he had a few times where he was like maybe going to get a pick, but and he's been playing pretty good as well. But I think just having an interception recently boosts your confidence as a cornerback. And I really like Trey White. Hamlin could be back. Like I obviously we don't know anything about him, but the fact that he's been released and all of he's all like no damage to the nervous system or anything like that. I don't see why he couldn't get into shape and play. And he could probably play a game now. It's
incredible.
He's an athlete in incredible shape. I just think that the games where Mahomes has been beaten have been games where he's been pressured in the pocket. And yes, we don't have Von Miller, but I think in a way, obviously I wouldn't say a blessing in disguise because I'd rather have Von Miller, but I think it's just going to bring out the most out of the other players. You look at a guy like Greg Rousseau, I think he needs to step up. I think he could have a crazy game. Ed Oliver, he's going to make some noise in there. I think we're getting healthier at the right time, which is a nice thing. I think Josh Allen, he's past his mid-season kind of like
lull.
Is Josh Allen good? That seems to happen every year. The turnovers have been bad. I'll put that absolutely on him. He's been a little careless with the ball. I think if we can limit that though, we're the best team in the NFL. Not even biased, like we could easily be the number one seed in the AFC. And another thing too is so I'll mention, I didn't mention it yet for the 49ers. They're on a 10-game win streak, which is crazy.
Wow, I didn't even notice that.
The Bengals are on an 8-game win streak. But obviously, and they only have 3 losses all season, but very quietly the Bills are on a 7-game win streak themselves. They haven't lost since they lost to Minnesota, which was a winnable game. So was the loss to the Jets. So was the loss to the Dolphins. And then some of the games they won obviously could have lost, but this Bills team could be 16-0. But I don't know. I want to pick the Bills because if they're going to win the Super Bowl, I want to be right about it. Maybe a little bit of a teaser for my Super Bowl pick, because we're not letting Brock Purdy beat us.
That's funny.
So I mean, I have the Bills over the 49ers in my Super Bowl, and then I have Bills 2023 Super Bowl champs written. I feel like
written and recorded on January 11th.
9:08 p.m. You heard it here first. Even though I picked them to win the Super Bowl in the preseason, I don't know. And it's not like I don't even feel like I'm necessarily being super biased with this pick. I really like our chances when we've faced games where they're not close and we're going to have to come up with some stops and have a game-winning drive. We've been able to do that. You and I were both watching the Lions game on Thanksgiving together, and a lot of people expected that to be a blowout because the Lions at the time didn't have a great record. They ended up finishing 9-8 on the season, and a team that gained a lot more respect. I think that Bills win versus the Lions is a lot more impressive in hindsight. I just want to go over the Bills schedule.
Way more impressive.
And just share my thoughts on how I felt after the game. Okay. Bills last week beat the Patriots. I've mentioned one of the greatest Bills games I've ever watched. I love it. Bills then beat the Bears 35-13. It's the Bears, but they were losing at halftime and then just demolished them in the second half. So I like to see that. We rushed really well that game, which is encouraging. beat the Dolphins. It was by a field goal, so it was a close game, but we're gonna, get rid of the Dolphins. 20-12 win over the Jets. A defensive battle. Hold the Jets to 12 points. I mean, we pretty much we could have in a domino effect ended Zach Wilson's career with that, because we forced him to start the next week, because we pretty much shredded Mike White.
We killed Mike White in that
game.
Beat
the Patriots. We looked really good in that game against the Patriots. Beat the Lions, as I mentioned. Beat the Browns. I was at the Browns game. I was also at the Jets game, and then obviously the Bengals game. So 3 games for me, and I've really trusted them. They beat the Rams in Week 1. Obviously, the Rams weren't who we expected them to be, but Week 1 was probably the best roster the Rams had all year. We beat them by 3 touchdowns. Beat the Titans 41-7, and then the loss to the Dolphins. The win against the Ravens, very underrated in my opinion. Good game-winning drive. Win against the Chiefs, Packers. I don't know. I just rambling here, but I have faith in this team, and I believe with everything that's happened, I don't want to pick against them, and I think they're maybe the toughest out in the playoffs. Someone could beat them, and they haven't won a Super Bowl before, so it's likely that they get beaten. But I don't know. I think with the motivation of everything, with the DeMar Hamlin situation, I don't know. And the thing too is the AFC Championship. They could make the Super Bowl and they could lose to whoever's there, but I think the AFC Championship is the Super Bowl.
I agree fully.
Because I don't really see the NFC winner. I don't see the NFC winning this year. It's been the NFC for the last 2 years. Maybe
since the Chiefs won it last, I think.
Yeah, since the Chiefs won it last. Because last year was the Rams, the year before it was the Bucks, and then the Chiefs the year before that.
Yep.
I see it going back to the AFC.
I have the Chiefs
Bills
making it.
Super Bowl. Yeah,
I got the Chiefs making it. I love the Chiefs this season. I think the biggest thing for me is that the loss of Tyreek Hill has proved that it is a system-driven team rather than a star-driven team. It's just a very good system with stars in it. And once you get that system, like the Patriots were with Brady, who was a star in a tremendous system, it's a special thing, and it's hard to beat that. And maybe the Bills are that, and maybe once they win a ring, in my mind, they will be that team with stars who are in a good system. But right now, the Bills are too much star power, not enough system to beat this Chiefs team. That is one of the best systems we've seen in a very long time with
Chiefs
Coach
also
Reid.
Won the Super Bowl when Mahomes won the MVP. So he's on pace to win it again this year.
Yeah, he could go. He could do the twofer again.
Could be a trend.
So I have them advancing, and then I have a New Heights final. If you've been enjoying their podcast, I have a little Kelsey matchup with the Eagles versus the Chiefs, both 1 seeds, and I have the Chiefs taking out over the Eagles. I just find this Chiefs team is just such a wagon, and like you said, the chip is going, the Lombardi is going to an AFC team this year. But for me, it's the Chiefs. Shout out Dave Collings.
I picked the Bills on here because I'm wearing a Bills hat. They're my favorite team. I want to be right, like I mentioned. However, if I'm betting my life on it, I'd probably say the Chiefs. And I think a large part of that is because there's a chance that they have to play the Jaguars. No discredit to the Jaguars, but the Chiefs should not lose that game.
It shouldn't be
pretty much any scenario.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too tough.
They might have to play the Jaguars. The AFC Championship, like I mentioned, is the Super Bowl. That'll be a really tough game. And then you might have to play Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl. I don't know.
It's not that worrisome.
I feel like I've dogged on Purdy a little bit. I like him.
It's just hard to envision a 7th-round quarterback.
I don't think he's I don't necessarily think he's a future starter in the league even.
No.
I just think a lot of quarterbacks can do well in that system. It makes you think. If Mahomes was on the 49ers, would they ever lose?
You wouldn't think so. I
I don't think they would.
Crazy. So that's the playoffs. I'm going to go grab my notebook so then we can compare our preseason rankings.
Is it in there or is it on the?
It's in here still. All right, so our preseason predictions. We had regular season, which we'll go over now, but we also had playoffs. So we'll react to that. I didn't look at this when making my playoffs today. I went completely blind today based off what I feel in the moment. So this will be a complete like tell of how I'm feeling now versus how I felt in preseason.
I mean, I'll quickly get into mine. My number one. Well, so I feel like let's just go. Who is your number one seed in each conference?
AFC Buffalo.
I had Buffalo as well, and we weren't far off.
No.
It ended up being the Chiefs, but with a win in Cincinnati, if that game happens, it's the Bills. So I'd give ourselves a consolation pat on the back for that one.
Yeah, that one wasn't too horrible.
NFC,
I had the Vikings as the 1 seed.
I had the Buccaneers. I think
that one did not age as well.
It didn't out necessarily, but I think if the Bucs played the way they played the previous 2 years, the way that the division was this year, that they could have easily been the number 1 seed. And it's just kind of like
true with the way the division was. Yes,
it ended up being the Eagles as the number 1 seed, but they were 9-8 last season. We both had them in the playoffs. We both had them winning the NFC East,
yeah.
But the jump from 9-8 to the 1 seed
was pretty. It was pretty. So yeah, and then I had the Vikings, which, they did as good as I thought they were gonna do. They cooled off a bit at the ends, but they were in constant. They were in that fight the whole way. So I'm not too mad at myself for thinking the Vikings were gonna finish 1, but I think with the defense they had, 1 was a little optimistic. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Those are my 1 seeds. My I guess we could go seed by seed.
Yeah,
two seeds were for me the Chargers and the Eagles. Eagles were close, just finished 1 off, so I won't talk about them at all. Chargers did not take the division. That was a little rough for me.
I had Ravens as my 2 seed. I don't hate that pick.
With a healthy Lamar all year.
I think if Lamar doesn't get hurt, they might win the division.
I still don't have them over an 8 straight game winning Bengals, but they'd be definitely close.
I was just saying that if the Ravens won last week, it would I think they would have won or something. It would have been like a coin flip. It was only like 1 game off. The loss to the Bengals in the last week of the season makes it look worse. Just
yeah,
it's like gonna give one
way
team
worse.
A win and give one team a loss. But I don't hate that pick so much. Packers were my 2 seed in the NFC.
That's a rough one.
Which is a little bit rough. They were the 1 seed last year in the NFC. So I don't hate, having them pegged there. I had a little more faith that Rodgers was going to be able to put it together with this new offense.
Yeah,
I thought
Mahomes did
it
with the
was going to
Chiefs.
be, you got Jones and Dillon. If they can combine, if you can get 150-ish rushing yards, like 100 to 150 a game from those 2 combined, that's big. And then Aaron Rodgers can make a throw when you need him to. So I thought they were going to be a little more successful.
Yeah, that just didn't happen. Shut out Lions.
My 3 seed in the NFC was the Eagles. So there's that.
Yep.
And my 3 seed in the AFC was the Denver Broncos.
Oh, there was
I also had Hackett as my coach of the year, and he got fired before the season started.
Before it ended, yeah.
Or before it ended. Only the second time. Surprisingly, only the second time that a coach had been fired mid-season in his first year, and the first was last season with Urban Meyer.
Yeah, surprisingly,
it's only happened twice in NFL history. Is like, I mean, I guess he let
Rule. I guess Rule now. Did he finish it up? He had 2
in their first.
In their first year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was a little tougher. My 3 seeds were the Bengals, who were actually the 3 seed. Let's go. And the Buccaneers, who were the 4 seed. So
not far off.
Not far off. I had the Buccaneers winning their division, but not really being.
I'm looking at my 4 seeds.
And then Bengals I nailed. That wasn't so bad. 4 seeds for me were Colts and
Same.
the 49ers. which I'm happy with the
I
49ers.
had Colts Rams.
Colts Rams.
So worse on my end. I mean, nobody could have really predicted the Rams this year.
Yeah.
Who knew Robert Woods was that valuable to the team? I'm not saying that was the only thing that they lost, but
Oh jeez. Yeah. Wow. What a
with so many
disaster.
injuries, Stafford couldn't stay healthy, and then Colts obviously. I mean, you could have predicted it for sure.
But
they beat the Chiefs.
They beat the Chiefs. That was weird.
And then JT and almost were the first Eagles loss. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they were close. But
I think maybe the Eagles had lost. I think that would have been the week after the.
But yeah, that wasn't quite.
I thought adding they last year with Carson Wentz looked better than they did this year with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I know.
Thought Matt Ryan would have been an upgrade.
No, Carson Wentz is better than Matt Ryan, but is nowadays.
Wasn't.
So that's the world we live in. 5 seeds.
Sorry to the Chiefs.
Mine were
both
bad.
had them as our AFC.
No, mine were bad. My 5 seeds.
Yeah,
were
so
not
I have the Chiefs.
good.
I have the Chiefs as my AFC 5 seed. I had them as the best non-division winner, just because I was high on the Broncos. Because you think with
that team on
top
paper,
3 defense in the NFL, adding a Hall of Fame quarterback, whose Hall of Fame futures are maybe a little bit in question.
They are
now.
definitely in
I still
question
think he gets
now.
there. I still think he gets there just because of,
his legacy and everything.
And having that Super Bowl.
Plus,
ring as well.
being one of the originators of this scrambling QB style that is very prevalent in the modern day game.
Yeah, he was in his early career. He was a great rusher as well.
So he definitely deserves this, though, I think.
And one of the greatest Seahawks of all time as well. I think having a really good individual career with a team as well can help your Hall of Fame chances. I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Just
I don't know.
If you're an icon for a team.
It's just a perception thing at that point.
And then I had the Saints as my 5 seed in the NFC, which I don't feel that bad about.
You had them as a good team. You had them as the best non-division winner.
Yeah, but I mean, the NFC is kind of like.
I don't know. I didn't buy into the hype at all for any other South team than the Buccaneers, and even then, I shouldn't have been buying into their hype.
Well, Cowboys missing. I realize I have the Cowboys not even in the playoffs.
Yeah, that was a questionable decision. We could go over our individual standings too, but my 5 seeds were the Broncos, the best non-playoff or the best non-division league.
Standings or anything like
that. I have division standings,
and then I had it ranked.
My NFC team was the Packers, so my 5 seeds were both missed the playoffs and were both not very good. That was unfortunate.
I think. Well, the Saints going into the season, it was expected it was going to be Jameis, and maybe he's not great, but he's good enough. Great defense. They had a healthy Michael Thomas to start the year.
They did, and they
Landry to start the year.
That wide receiver room looked really good.
Olave, it looked like it was going to be a good team, and obviously the injuries happened.
Injuries were horrible for them.
I think if this team played to expectation,
I also just think there's now a coaching issue.
If they played a little bit better and stayed healthy, they could have been good.
Yeah, give them another year for their coach as well.
6 seeds, I had the Chargers in the AFC and the 49ers.
You almost nailed the Chargers.
Almost.
And then who was that for the 6 seed in the NFC?
49ers.
Ooh, that's where you got the 49ers. Mine were the Chiefs.
And that was also going into the season, expecting Trey Lance to be the starter of the whole year.
So they overperformed that even with a different.
Incorrect. We made these standings after.
After
the fact.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. So that would have been me thinking, Jimmy G's the starter the rest of the season, and lo and behold, it's Brock Purdy now.
Yeah.
And then who were yours in the 6 seeds again?
6 seeds were the Chiefs in the AFC, and the Cowboys in the NFC. So I was one off for the Cowboys. Chiefs I disrespected. I will not lie.
Yeah. The only one I got right, Dolphins at 7.
Dolphins at 7. I had them missing. I had the Dolphins missing the playoffs, which is dumb because I really
you were higher on them to start the year.
I thought Mike McDaniel was going to get Coach of the Year votes, and I had them missing the playoffs.
Yeah. Dolphins at 7. I sniped it. I kind of felt like, they were going to be that team that got in at that last spot.
And they were.
I expected a good season too. I have them in the wild card. I have them only, hypothetically below the Bills, Chiefs, Chargers, and then I guess Broncos. But
Yeah.
those still predicting them to have a good season. I think the Dolphins. I don't know. It was really sad.
Yeah.
To fall off. If you're a Dolphins fan, I wasn't really sad about it that much.
Coach Matt was probably not enjoying that fall off.
Oh no.
But yeah.
And then I had the Vikings in the NFC.
Vikings at 7.
I don't hate it all.
They
I'm
overperformed.
I'm glad that I predicted them to make the playoffs.
I can't believe I almost had them on the outside. I had them as the 1, but
yeah.
My
But
7.
They didn't make the playoffs before, so
Sure.
going from playoffs to division winner when I still had the Packers.
They were just they had such a revamped offense with the new coach, new offensive coordinator. It looked really good.
New head coach.
New head coach. That's right. I think he brought
O'Connell.
in. My 7s
They
were
probably changed up the staff a little bit.
yeah. My 7 was the Ravens, who were one off. Yeah, one off, and the Rams. Womp.
Yeah.
That one didn't end as well, but I'm happy with the Ravens where I picked them. Being I had the Ravens as the last team, like the worst team, but I guess they were 6 instead. Shout out to the Dolphins. And then my playoff predictions were not good.
Just I'd say give your AFC Championship, NFC Championship, and Super Bowl.
I could just
One
rifle
thing we
through
need
these. Mine were Bills Chargers, which I don't even think this is how it would have ended up anyways, but it was Bills Chargers, Bengals Broncos, and then I had the Broncos and Bills winning, then I had the Bills being the Broncos.
I also had Bills over Broncos in the AFC Championship.
And then I had Rams over 49ers.
We're laughing now, but since firing Hackett, they looked better.
They looked way better.
They had Hackett for that game. They played the Chiefs twice pretty well this season, and then they beat the Chargers in the last week of the season. I think next year, and especially if they are able to land Sean Payton, I think the Broncos will live up to the expectations we had for them this season. We're just going to be 1 year late, and the Seahawks are very grateful for that.
Incredibly. And then my other one was Rams, Vikings, 49ers, Cowboys. 49ers beat the Cowboys, Rams beat the Vikings. Rams vs 49ers, Battle of LA. Rams win, go back to the Super Bowl.
I have Tampa Bay over 49ers in my NFC Championship.
Yours has potential still.
It's true. And then I have the Bills over the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
And I have Bills over Rams in the Super Bowl. So we both have our Super Bowl winners. That look great. And then we both have 49ers that can. Those are our 2 teams that can potentially go the furthest from real life, from our preseason, or not preseason, but
of your award predictions. Do you think any of them are going to be right?
My awards?
I think the only award prediction I had going into the season that might be right is maybe Aiden Hutchinson, Defensive Rookie of the Year, which I think is very plausible. I had him for that.
Yeah.
Picks I don't like now, obviously Hackett, Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Big, colossal L. Jameis Winston, Comeback Player of the Year. That was a very popular pick, though.
That was.
Now that I think about it, who is it?
The Coach of the Year?
Comeback Player of the Year this year. Who are people saying, yeah, that was the Comeback Player of the Year?
I saw a lot of people saying Saquon.
For sure.
Saquon, I think, would be mine. Other than that, I don't really know. Sauce Gardner for D-Roy. We both nailed that pretty good.
I predicted him to be good.
Yeah, it's between him and...
He was my second in line.
Oh.
Hutchinson was my winner.
Oh, okay.
I had a lot as Offensive Rookie of the Year. I had a great rookie.
I had Pierce as Rookie of the Year. He was great, but got shut down and didn't have the touchdowns needed to really be that.
Being either Garrett Wilson or Kenneth Walker.
I'm pretty sure I said...
I feel like there hasn't been a ton of hype around who's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Just because it's not like a superstar, whereas, last year it was Jamar Chase. 2 years ago it was Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
so it was like a future cornerstone of the league winning the award. Not saying that Kenneth Walker isn't going to have a great career.
Yeah.
I think he will, and a lot of the rookies from this season. I'm just saying there wasn't a crazy rookie season that we were used to, that we got used to the last 2 years. Because 2 years ago, Justin Jefferson sets the new rookie wide receiver record for receiving yards. The year later, Jamar Chase breaks Justin Jefferson's record.
It definitely
those two great seasons,
insane seasons.
Two great winners.
It was two expectation ruining years.
Is my Opoi, which could happen.
That could happen, but I don't know.
Who is it?
My MVP, I had Herbert, which didn't age well, but my other two candidates were Josh Allen and Hurts. Should have given Mahomes my respect. I know that you gave Mahomes respect early in the year, so that aged well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of the awards, I don't really know.
I don't know many either.
Who's the decoy? I'd say Nick Bosa, maybe.
Yeah.
Just because they were the number one D, and he's the biggest part of that.
He'd help. My preseason
say Fred Warner is equally important.
My preseason pick was Micah Parsons. T.J. Watt, if healthy, I think T.J. Watt, if healthy, could have been it. He was really good when he did play.
I had Aaron Donald, but he got shut down. He might never play again in the NFL.
Yeah, that might have been it for him, which would be sad. My Opoi, I had between McCaffrey, Taylor, and Jefferson. And out of those guys, it's only Jefferson that's really a candidate. And then my decoy,
offensive player of the year odds right now.
My offensive rookies were Olave, Hall, and Pierce. Hall unfortunately got injured. Pierce didn't really live up to it, so I guess Olave was my best pick. Defensive rookie, Sauce Gardner. I think I nailed that one pretty good. Comeback player, I had it between Winston, McCaffrey, and Mac, and then I had McCaffrey, but it's probably Saquon. And then coach of the year, I had Staley. Dang, that wasn't so good. But my other two were Mike McDaniel and Sean McDermott. Early in the year, my Mike McDaniel pick looked awesome, but moving on, it didn't age as well.
I wish I had a pick Daboll.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us would have picked Peterson because it's hard to predict that jump.
Yeah, I definitely would have.
You typically need a playoff appearance to win that coach of the year, I find. Anyways, right now, the odds, apparently, as of December 27th, Jefferson's the leader.
Oh,
that was before, but this is before a few games. This was before his dud against
the Packers.
From what I can see, though, Jefferson's the favorite. Then Tyreek Hill, then Mahomes, then Hurts, then Allen, then McCaffrey. So
McCaffrey getting in there is surprising to me.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure he had 1,000 rushing yards, maybe not 1,000 rushing yards, but I think he had.
He did it's 1,000 thing.
Yeah, near-ish to 2,000 scrimmages. I mean, he missed probably too many games to.
Yeah.
I do want to find out stuff. I think it'll probably be Jefferson now that I do think about it, just because it's
who else could it be?
Nobody's done enough to take that away from him. I think just because there's only so many. Now the regular season's done. This season, Christian McCaffrey. Yep. He had 1,139, so 1,139 rushing yards. Wow. Guess how many receiving? Oh wait, never mind.
Read the wrong number.
Oh. Yeah, I was reading his only in Carolina numbers. I was he had 277 receiving yards this year.
And that was only
741 receiving yards. So, getting back to form. It could have been him. It could be him. I just think it'll be Jefferson.
It'll be Jefferson, probably. So, that's probably about it for football. I don't really have much else to mention.
Neither do I. I think, I'm really excited. Moving forward, we're we won't in a playoff preview we can dedicate the whole episode to it. But we might have I don't even think we could make an entire Super Bowl episode. I think the Super Bowl will be included with other things.
Yeah, most likely.
We'll be covering the playoffs week by week, but the episodes won't be fully dedicated to that. You'll be getting a little bit of NHL, NBA, along with your Brock Purdy slander.
Of course. Other news: the NHL and NBA have their trade deadlines coming up within a week or two. NBA's is in a week, so
a week.
Look it up. We're halfway through the NBA season already, and the trade deadline is coming up in a week or two. It's coming up. February 9th. It's coming up in a month. In 3 weeks we have
I
our
got time
NBA
to
trade
prep.
deadline, and there's been no deals
NHL
yet.
is March 3rd.
But just for that'll probably be the topic of discussion next week. Talk about NHL and NBA trade possibilities. Like, I definitely know I'm gonna want to talk about that. Other things that we could talk about right now are just like some plans moving forward. I hope at the end of this month to have a video about betting on the Leafs out. So I'll be having that out some point soon. That'll be a 15 to 30-minute video talking about my time betting on the Leafs. And then other than that, my only content that I've been producing is bet picks, which, again, I just want to say thank you guys for the continued support. That somehow went from getting 30 views a video to 100 in under a week. So I just wanted to say thank you everyone who's been watching that and who's watching right now too. I am not sure if, Nolan, you have any plans for what you want to do for content, but if you have any ideas you want to throw out.
In the new year, the account has existed since we started the podcast, just because, when we wanted to get the names and the handles, all that, even though there's probably not a lot of people vying for Collings Thode Network.
Hopefully not.
But at Collings Thode Network on TikTok, moving into the new year, we hope to be putting a lot more content on that. I mean, if you guys are, loyal, avid listeners of the podcast, a lot of it will just be, clips from the podcast, but that'll be trying to, reach new audiences, bring people in. If you do come across any of those TikToks on your For You page, feel free to, interact with them, share them. It always helps. But yeah, so, clips and starting to just have more ways to consume our content. TikTok being one of them. I'm sure we'll have more videos. Curtis potentially even like putting the bet picks both on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, and then just other little things as well, like live reactions to games and stuff like that. Like we could make a YouTube video having a camera that's following Curtis and I watching the Super Bowl and uploading it later with our live reaction to specific plays and stuff like that. I think we could make a pretty cool video now that I think about it, with some of the NFL playoff games and live reactions. But yeah, we're trying to just expand the way that you guys can, listen to us, watch us, however you consume us. Just trying to make content that both Curtis and I enjoy making, and hopefully you guys enjoy, being consumers of. And you really make it all worth it for us. Having any type of fan base means a lot to Curtis and I.
Yeah, something we've never really experienced before.
No, and we could not even have this video, and we could still have an hour and a half discussion on the NFL playoffs, him and I. But we want to be able to, engage with the sports community and connect to the sports community more than we even do. I think, we felt a little isolated in the past few years just because of the pandemic, and, we want nothing more to be able to, just connect with people and talk about sports, because we love sports. Shout out The Lonely Island, I'm pretty sure. That's or is an SNL skit or something. Song called We Love Sports. It's an old YouTube gem if you want to give it the time of day. But yeah, we love sports so much so that, I mean, look behind Curtis right now. He's got a wall of sports, and Jesus Pizza showed out.
Shout out.
But yeah, we just are really excited about this year. I'm really curious a year from now to look back and see how far we've come, and what we've put out, and if we've grown, even if we haven't, just being able to look back at a catalog of stuff that we're proud of, and can be consumed by, even if it's a niche community. We love making it.
Yes, so thank you everyone, and thanks for listening. If you got to this point, we are an hour and 40 minutes into the recording, so thank you everyone, and we will see you the next time you see us.
Thank you.